The time in my life, I was actually very depressed and suicidal. And so I actually had two suicide attempts. The first one when I was 17, and the second one when I was 19. And that's what led to that particular situation. I was very depressed. I just got into a fight with a boyfriend that I was involved in a relationship with. It was a very toxic relationship. And on that phone call, he said, "You should kill yourself." And something just said, I just came into agreement with that lie. And I said, yes, today is a perfect day, because I was already going through so much pain, just being severely depressed and filled with anxiety and suicidal thoughts all the time. And that day, I just decided I was going to do that. Before that experience, my family, we were raised in the Buddhist tradition. So we were Buddhist, so we went to the Lao temple all the time. We went to the Buddhist temple on a weekly basis. My parents, my mom mainly, because my dad had passed away when I was 11, but my mom mainly, she raised us to believe that, Buddhism was the way, and that we had to always work our way into salvation and a nirvana of, entering into a good afterlife. And I did know some concepts of Christianity because a family that we connected with introduced us to their Lutheran church. And so I did learn about Jesus and God the Father and the Holy Spirit, but I had no idea that there was anything about a relationship. No one talked to me that Jesus could be your friend. I really only knew Christianity as just another religion, and really that it was a Western religion. That for in my culture, in the Laotian culture, Christianity was really thought of as a Western religion, and it was a Western God. I had two experiences. The first experience was that I got to go into hell, and I got to see elements of what hell would be. One of them would be like a cage coming over me, and then so as the process that happened where I was dying, I could feel myself going in and out of consciousness, and I could see these scenes, and I could hear these demonic voices, and I could feel the darkness. I could feel the evil that was lying ahead of me when I was in the act of killing myself. I took a bottle of pills, and so as I took those pills, I could feel that I was going in and out of consciousness. So I got to see that, and so when I woke up the next day, then from the hospital, I was rushed to the emergency room, and I came back out from the hospital. I had another experience, and this was an out-of-body experience. I went to go lay down, and my spirit went through the mattress, and I didn't know what was happening, but it went so fast. I was going at lightning speed, and then what was very interesting was I was going so fast, but yet I could see the different layers of the earth as I was descending, and I didn't know where I was going, but as I was going so fast, I ended up in this dark, dark pit, and I can't even describe other than say it was a darkness that you experience and you feel it, and it's a gripping fear, and the darkness just covers you, and you can feel the evil all around you. And so when I was in that dark, dark pit, you just have a knowing. When you're in a different spiritual realm, you have a knowing of, even though you can't see anything, you discern what's around you. And I knew that there were these demonic entities that were circling around me, and I was right in the middle of it. And you don't hear with an audible voice, but you know that they're speaking to you telepathically. So immediately there was a message, a voice that I could pick up telepathically, and it first said, "You're right. God doesn't love you." And then another voice, "You're right. God does not care for you." And then another voice, "You're right. God never had a plan for you." And so as I was listening to these messages from around me. I don't even know where this knowing came from, but something inside me, something deep within me said, you cannot partner with these lies. You have to say the opposite. And I was not I was not a Christian. I did not give my life to Jesus. I just knew about Christianity, and I was, involved in I was Buddhist, and then I also practiced other religions as well. I was in the occult. I was into New Age because I was seeking power. I was seeking something. I was seeking the supernatural and truth. And so I was looking into all of these other religions. So I don't even know where that came from within me to say, you got to say the opposite. And so I did. I started to have the opposite thought of what was coming against me. So the first thought that said, God doesn't love you, I responded back, no, God does love me. And then the other thought, God doesn't care for you. No, God cares for me. And I just started to respond to these accusations and to these voices the very opposite, that God was for me. And as I did that, above me, in the pitch black pit, the ceiling above me completely just broke wide open. And it was this bright, illuminating light that came from the ceiling. And this being, and I didn't know who this being was at first. I was just so shocked. But this being, I saw this angelic being, and on a white horse, just came down and swooped me up out of that dark pit. And as is now, I'm going back up, 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 up. I'm going the same way I came down, except I was going in completely the opposite direction. I was going up. I actually thought I was going to just be dropped back into my bed. I thought I was just going to be dropped back there. But I was going up so fast, and now I realize I'm past my house. I'm past the city where I was living. And then I could see the earth getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I was going so fast. I was going so high, and I thought, well, where am I going now? I know I was just in hell, but now where am I going? And I can see the stars. I could see the universe. I'm up there in that realm, and I'm going closer. And what I know is heaven, and I see this just the atmosphere of heaven. I see the outer edge, and what I saw and what I heard. I saw that the silhouette of the most beautiful angels, and I felt just this warmth and a flood of love that I have never experienced. Because while I was on earth, I never experienced love by anyone. I had a very rough childhood and just really empty relationships. And so I had never experienced this kind of love. So this love overwhelmed me. This love flooded me. And as I was getting closer to heaven, it felt like going home. Even though I don't remember ever being in heaven, it felt like going home. And it felt so comfortable and familiar. And I heard the most beautiful singing coming from these angels. And it was so beautiful. I even said to myself in that moment, I said, Yen, you have never heard singing like this before. You will never hear this kind of singing on earth. And I didn't know I was making note of it for a reason. But it just moved me so much. The beautiful voices and the song, and I couldn't make it out. Obviously, it wasn't in English. I couldn't make out what they were singing, but it was so comforting. It was so loving. It was so beautiful. And as I was drawing closer, I was thinking to myself, well, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel worthy to go to heaven. And I don't even remember actually, am I a Christian? I don't even remember actually converting because of how I lived my life on earth. I did not live for God in any way, shape, or form. But here I am entering heaven's gates. And a thought came to my mind that I was very sad. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to my mother and my two siblings that were left on earth. And I was very sad about that because my dad, he died unexpectedly. He fell asleep and he never woke up. And so he never got to say goodbye to any of us. And so I was very sad that this was probably going to happen to them again, to have another family member leave without saying goodbye. As I was having that thought, I heard the audible voice of God, and he said, "It's not your time." And when I heard that, I started to descend all over again, and I went again. It was lightning speed, and I fell so fast, and it just was a straight shot down. And I remember the impact of it when I reached my bedroom and my mattress, and my spirit fell right back into my body. It was like my body just shot right up. Like there was no gradual waking up, it just shot right up. When I was in hell and in that pit, and those messages and those voices were coming at me that God doesn't love me, that God doesn't care about me, that he doesn't have a plan. When those thoughts came to me and I responded with the very opposite, and I responded with the truth that God does love me and he cares for me and he's got a plan for me and he's for me, I am realizing now that message that we cannot partner with the lies from the enemy. We can't partner with that. We have to partner with the truth of what does God say about us? What did God do for us? Jesus went to the cross for us because he loves us and he has a plan. So that's a powerful message that has really resonated with me so many years later about the power of belief, the power of believing God's truth. And so that's a message I love to share with other people now. One of the things about my story, I think, that is interesting is that right before I took all of the pills to kill myself, I actually looked in the mirror and I said, I was actually talking to God, not knowing if God was really there, but I said, "God, if you're there, I don't even know if you're there, but I heard that if you kill yourself, you go to hell." And I said, "I don't even care if you send me to hell, because my life on earth feels like a living hell. I am tormented with horrific thoughts. I'm tormented by shame, guilt, and I don't even care if I go to hell. You can send me there." And the fact of what he did for me, his grace, because when I started to see hell and I could feel myself dying and slipping in and out of consciousness and seeing where my fate was going to be, that's when I said, I don't want to go there. I'm dying. I know I'm dying, but I know I don't want to go there. And I need help. God, help me. And so my story, what I really want people to get out of it is the goodness of God. And he's a God of second chances. And even in my utter defiance, and even in me giving God permission to send me to hell, he knew the state of my heart. He knew I was in pain. He knew I was hurting. And he knew my future. And so he saw things in me that I never thought I would be doing today, so many years later. And so I just testify of his abundant grace and his goodness to see past my depravity and the state of my life. And so that's what I want to share with others. I would say I've been there. I've done that, and I know so many other people have as well. I have looked into so many different religions. I didn't believe at all that God was real because of what I had gone through as a child and my dad dying and all of these things. And I got into New Age, I got into witchcraft, I searched, I looked into so many things, but I cried out. I said, God, if you're real, you need to show me who you are. And when I did that, when I finally did that, God show me, because it was actually after my near death experience. I knew I wanted to know God, but I didn't know how to know God. So I asked God, show me that you're real. Show me, and show me how to be a believer, because I didn't know anyone to help walk that walk of faith, to disciple me. So I encourage anyone that's searching for the truth, cry out. Just ask God for the truth. Ask Him to show you, and He will. He is so faithful, and He is so good, and He wants to show you who He is. It was so interesting because I would say it was about maybe a year after I had that experience, and I was working at a restaurant, and it was a very quiet evening. A woman actually came in, and she told me she was a Christian. And I had talked to her a few nights because she was staying in that area, and she had talked about her faith. But one particular night, she prayed over me and she prophesied. That was my first time ever getting a prophetic word. I didn't even know what a prophetic word was, to be honest with you. I didn't know what she was doing. She just said, "Can I pray over you?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" And when she prayed over me, she gave me this prophecy that I have a powerful testimony, that so many people, that just countless people are going to hear about, and that God was going to use my story. And I thought she was crazy because my life really didn't change at that point. I was still searching, but I was still in that same bondage of alcohol and drug abuse. And so I thought she was really crazy when she said that. But it's so amazing because now the journey that God has me on in Him revealing Himself to me, I have grown so much in the faith and in the Lord now, that I'm so passionate now about sharing the good news with other people, my salvation story. And I'm now ministering to people. I'm on the prayer team at my church, and just even through Randy Kay's podcast, through this platform, I've had so many people reach out to me for ministry and for prayer. And so I have the privilege and honor now to use my story, to share my story, and to testify of God's abounding grace and His goodness.